In section 2.3, we're going to look at traveling by train or by bus. So let's look at traveling by bus first. There are advantages and disadvantages to a bus or a train. So the advantages we would have to traveling by bus is that traveling by bus is actually the cheapest mode of transportation. If you need to go someplace and you don't want to spend a lot of money, take a bus. There are a lot of destinations available by bus as well, and there are a lot of different departure times too. Now, buses are known for being smooth and quiet, and they actually have access to many different terrains that maybe a train does not have access to. Another advantage is that tickets don't sell out very quickly on buses, so they have lots of options and they don't sell out. Now, some of the disadvantages to traveling by bus is that you can't walk around on the bus when it's driving. Typically, bus rides are very basic and they don't have a lot of amenities on the bus. So there's just not a lot of extras. In addition, with a bus, you can't really lay your seat back like you would. You can lay it back a little bit, but you really can't lay it back very well. Depending on where your bus is going, it may or may not be a scenic drive, so you may spend a lot of time on the highway, and that can get kind of boring depending on where you're traveling. Your luggage is very limited. With buses, they don't have a lot of space for luggage. So really whatever they give you, the amount that you can fit on that bus, and that's about it. And then also with buses, a lot of times the travel time is longer because they can be slower, and they also don't keep cool very well. So if it's very hot, the bus is probably going to be warm. Now, if you do decide to travel by train, some advantages of traveling by train is that it can be very scenic along your travels. Typically on a train you can walk around, and they do have a lot of extras on there. So like they'll have a food cart that you can go and visit at different times during the day, and it can just be very relaxing and very kind of calm because there's a lot of things to do while you're on the train. In addition, on trains you can also get a sleeping area on the train. So if you're traveling overnight and you want to lay down, you can on the train. Trains may actually be faster than taking a bus because it can be a direct route and you don't need to worry about traffic, because basically trains don't stop for cars, cars stop for trains. And if you do decide you want to ride on a train, it can be a fun and unique experience. So depending on where you're going and how long you'll be on the train, it may just be a lot of fun to try it out. Now, some of the disadvantages are that riding on a train is more expensive, and with trains you don't exactly have a lot of destinations that are available to you. I will also say I've been on a train and it is kind of a rough ride. So even if you were sleeping, you're going to bounce around a little bit. And trains are not very quiet when you're on a train. They are kind of loud inherently no matter what. Train tickets do sell out fairly quick, so sometimes it might be difficult to get a ticket if you wait till the last minute. And trains are not necessarily able to go everywhere that buses are. So they can't necessarily go up a steep hill. They're going to have more flat terrain, or they're going to have a lot of distance to make it up a hill. So we're going to look at a few different sample problems that involve riding by a train or riding by a bus. So here we have a missionary family of 5 is on furlough, and they need to travel from Charleston, South Carolina to Sedona, Arizona. They're considering whether to travel by bus or by train. Train tickets cost $120 each, and bus tickets cost $110. There's no discount for children, and each option requires an overnight traveling. So what is the price difference between the two options? And that one's a pretty quick one to figure out. If you travel by train, it's going to cost you $120. If you travel by bus, it will cost $110. So the difference between those two is $10 a ticket times my family of 5 is $50 total. Now the next question up here says, which option would you choose to travel? Well, that's a personal one. For me, I would like to get some good sleep. And so if I had the option, I probably would choose a train, even though it cost me $10 more per ticket, because I would have the option to lay down flat on this train. Now part C says, if the bus ticket costs $60 a person, which option would you choose? My train ticket is still $120, but now the bus ticket is only $60. So the difference is $60 times 5 is $300. $300 is a lot more money than $50. If it were just me on this trip, I probably would just choose the bus. I wouldn't pay the extra money to be able to lay down flat. If my kids were younger, I probably would value sleep enough that I would pay the extra money. My kids are older, I probably would ask them their thoughts on it, and we would decide as a family who valued sleep more and who valued having the extra money more. But as you can see, even though it costs a lot more money to ride the train, it may or may not be worth it to you to choose the cheaper option based on exactly what you're trying to get out of this trip. Here, a missionary family needs to travel from Boston, Massachusetts to Orlando, Florida. They were considering whether to fly or drive. If they fly, they want to leave the airport at 10:30 a.m. and they'll arrive at 1:40 p.m. If they drive, they'll leave their house at 5 a.m. and arrive the next morning at 2 a.m. How much longer will it take them to drive than to fly? So a lot of this problem goes along with section 2.2 where we looked at time zones and just kind of knowing how to calculate time. So the first thing I want to do is typically when we look how long does something take, we would say end and then we'd say minus start. But the one thing I need to make sure I do is when I look at my times, I want to be able to compare time to time. So for example, if I have my start time is 10:30 a.m., I really can't just put 1:40 up here. That's not going to work out very well. I'm better off looking at this in military time. And to do that, I will say 1:40 plus 12 hours. And when I do that, that converts it to military time of 1340. That's a lot easier to take the difference of. So I'm going to add that 12 hours on. And when I do, if I take the end time minus my start time, this is going to give me 3 hours and 10 minutes is how long my flight will take. That's the length of time my flight takes. I also am going to look at driving. So this is flying. So let's write this up here. Flight. If I were to drive, I'm going to do kind of the same formula. I'm going to put my 5 down here. Now the unique part is I'm going to arrive the next day at 12 a.m. So since I'm coming in at 12 a.m. the next day, I need to add 24 hours onto that. It's no longer 2 o'clock minus 5 o'clock. It's now 26 o'clock minus 5 o'clock. So 2 plus 24 hours gives me 26 hours minus 5 o'clock. So this becomes, the drive is 21 hours, and that would include stops and things like that. So it would take them 21 hours to get down there. So if I fly, it's 3 hours and 10 minutes. If I drive, it's 21 hours. Well, the difference between the two, if I were to drive, I would take the longer one minus the shorter one. And when I do that, I need to, over here, since I have 0 minutes, I'm going to need to take one of these hours and convert it into minutes. So I've got 20 hours now and 60 minutes. This gives me 50 minutes here, and this is 17, I should say, hours and 50 minutes. That's going to be the difference in how long it takes to fly versus driving. So if they were looking at this and they decided that they didn't have the money, then they may decide to drive. But if the money wasn't a problem, then flying obviously takes a lot less time.